And you found us. Hi, everyone. It's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. Welcome to my takeout. You can bring your own takeout sack or takeout box. You know, those little white boxes with the little, wire that you get, wire handle. That's the old style, right? Emil Muck's Takeout, my takes on all things considerable. There's a lot of considerable things going on. It's still a new day on the campaign, right? Kamala Harris out talking to her sorority sisters today. While she had an excuse not to be at Bibi Netanyahu's speech before Congress. And then Joe Biden speaks tonight. That's going to be a big deal. So much happening. To put the last 10 months in context, the last 3 weeks in context, the last 3 days. I mean, a lot happening. And of course, do they ever, there are a lot of polls out today to show just what kind of role Kamala Harris is on. They never ask any Asians. And this program is subtitled WDAAT. What does an Asian American think? Hey, Filipino American, Asian American, what do I think? I'm telling you what I think right here. First of all, it's hot outside. It's going to be like in the triple digits again today where I am. You're going to tell me about climate change, how it doesn't exist? Climate change exists. It's getting hotter. Okay, so what does an Asian American think? These are some new poll numbers that are out. This is a CNN poll conducted by SSRS, July 22nd to July 23rd. Biden should remain in office. 70% said he should remain in office. Well, that seems kind of high. Oh no, that's Biden should remain in office after he stepped down. So there's a big push. Republicans right now are doing all these gimmick things like, oh, let's get Biden out. Oh, there's a cover up. It is his health. Why did the Democrats tell us about his health? He shouldn't be serving as president, right? Because he misspoke a couple of times. If you count the number of times that Donald Trump has misspoken, my goodness. But anyway, now at least 70% say that Biden should remain in office and resist any move, any illogical move that he leave office early. 29% say he should step down. Here's the number I thought I was looking at. The number of registered voters who view Biden's decision to end campaign, 87% approve. I think it's only that high because no one asks their name, right? This is the thing about polls, right? You say, oh, well, yeah, some people will lie. Some people will tell the truth because it's anonymous. But I guess it isn't surprising that if you call people up, because that's how most of these polls are done, telephone calling, 87% approve with the statement that, registered voters who view of Biden's decision to end campaign, 87% approve. If it's anonymous, yeah. If it's not anonymous, I would say that number would be closer to maybe 60. Not anonymous. I mean, like you'd have to publicly say, yes, I'm a African American, Asian American. I think most Asian Americans are I saw some polling early that suggested that there wasn't sympathetic to Biden. So 87% approve that Biden's decision to end the campaign. 13% disapprove. I wonder if they're all named Biden. The Biden family, they disapproved of that. But 87% of everyone else did. As far as remaining in office, 70% say he should remain in office, 29% say step down. I think he should stay. And I think we should watch his speech tonight, 5 p.m. Eastern, or 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern, to see what he says. Here's my thought. My thought is he's probably going to come up with something like a ask not what your country can do for you kind of moment. You'll recall back on, I guess, July 10th or 11th, I wrote my column and I said, you know, with Biden, it's always inflection points. It's always we're at an inflection point. We're at this point where things go up, they jump up, or this is a geometric notion where how the curve goes up or the curve goes down. I thought we were at a moment 3 weeks ago. This was before the debate. This was the inflection point. We would go up because I thought Joe Biden would perform. So wrong, so wrong. And that, in fact, was the downward inflection point. And I just remember people were talking about the debate, and I said, yeah, well, maybe this is going to be Joe Biden's inflection point. And then every point after that debate, and it just, things went into the toilet for Joe Biden. I thought, well, maybe there will be a new inflection point, and he'll recover from this. Yeah, the George Stephanopoulos interview. Nope. Oh, all these other, nope. Something's going to happen that gives him the inflection point he needs. Nope. And it turns out we had a couple of inflection points. The assassination attempt on Trump, that was an inflection point that changed things in the race. It brought more sympathy to Trump, made Biden's role more precarious. And even though maybe you can say, oh, they would all come together, Democrats and Republicans in unity. We're all under attack. And for like an hour or two, it was like that. But so the only inflection point we saw came last weekend when Biden said, I'm done. For the good of the country, I'm done. I'm stepping away from the campaign. And there went the inflection point for not Joe Biden necessarily. Well, ultimately for Joe Biden, because everyone's going to praise him for being selfless and et cetera, et cetera. But it was definitely an upward inflection point for Kamala Harris, right? So I'm trying to anticipate what Joe Biden's going to say today, because he's going to be looking for his inflection point, and his inflection point today. And there was a press secretary today saying, yes, the president says we're at an inflection point. Of course he would say that. So how does he view this inflection point? Well, first of all, for him, people will hold him in high regard for stepping aside, putting country before self. It's a legacy moment. I'm stepping away. Let this young whippersnapper, let Kamala Harris do her thing. It's an inflection point for the country, not necessarily for Joe, but Joe Biden's going to get his the laudatory statements about Joe Biden will come in. You know, America is a democracy. It's not like a monarchy. You know, he's not a king. When stuff happens to a king, man, in a monarchy, the subjects go all they just wilt. They oh, the king is dead, the queen is dead. You know, any kind of monarchy, you know, king, queen. I was once in Thailand where the king was not feeling well, and oh my God, the king is dead. The king is dying. So Biden doesn't get that as president. He got COVID while he was, dealing with, is he running? Is he not running? No sympathy. People were saying, Joe, you got to go, got to go, got to go. Now he steps aside. Now he's going to get the kind of laudatory remarks that he expected. It would have happened if he were king, but he's not king. He's president. So now people just say, until now, the moment he said, I'm stepping down, and he backed Kamala Harris in about a half hour after he made that statement last weekend. Man, the number of people who love Joe Biden, including Kamala Harris. We saw how the love fest. I wrote about that on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog. I said, yeah, laudatory, high praise, love all around on Monday, I guess it was, Monday afternoon, early evening, when Kamala Harris essentially assumed the whole campaign team of the Biden-Harris campaign. Top to bottom, everyone. No transition. And Biden said, yeah, the name's changed, mission's the same. So I think tonight what Joe Biden's going to say is, I set the example for you to maybe follow me. And it's going to be his inflection point in popularity and in love will be once he comes up with his ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country moment. It's a version of that. That was about, Kennedy was talking about service, right? Service out of love for your country. What can you do for your country? The ultimate service, the military, I would imagine. For Biden, it is a version of that in the sense that what did he do? He asked not what his country could do for him. He asked what he could do for his country, and what he could do for his country was save it. Save the threat to democracy. Step aside. Let a younger, more attractive, more energetic campaigner step up and take on the threat that is Donald Trump. And that will be his legacy for all the things that he did. Good and bad. For some people, they think of Anita Hill, the Clarence Thomas hearings. For some people, they don't think of Joe Biden necessarily as that nuts and bolts legislative guy, although he is. That's what he did. He got legislation through. And if you look at what he did, just his only, right, his one term, you look what he did, and you got to be amazed at what he was able to do with the smallest margin that you can think of. Right? So Joe Biden tonight, anxious to hear him speak because that'll close a chapter. These last 3 weeks, is he, isn't he, is he running, is he not running? No, here's his decision. It's historic, never happened, or only happens once every 50 years a president does this, because you think about how hard it is to give up power. You think how hard it is to say, I'm the most powerful man in the world. And you know what? I want to be just an average Joe now. It's hard. That's hard. I mean, you got to be devoid of ego. You got to be, I mean, that's what kept him going, right? You see what I was writing in, after the Stephanopoulos interview. You see how defensive he got. Biden. I'm the only one. I'm the only man. I can do this job. I've got. Okay, finish it off now. He's got from now until January. He gets to finish it off. And his legacy, especially if Kamala Harris wins, will be he warded off perhaps one of the greatest internal threats to democracy that we've seen. I mean, you have to think about that because he looked at data that showed he had no path to win, zero. And that if he stayed in, not only would his race be affected, but all the down ballot races. And can you imagine if Trump wins the presidency and then also regains the House, regains the Senate and the House and the Supreme Court? I mean, the Supreme Court's already there. But I'm saying they've got all four factors, three branches, the House and the Senate. He'd consolidate the legislative branch, there'd be the executive branch, and then there's the judicial. And if it were all under Republican hands, oh my God. I mean, that's the threat. That's what he saved us from. So let's see how he puts it. How he defines his inflection point. And maybe he says, do like me. Do like Joe. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. And be selfless, be courageous, step up and take action. Took him a while, finally did it. COVID influenced, Paxlovid influenced, but he did it. And now there's still a threat to democracy because Donald Trump is still running. But the ability of Kamala Harris to do her thing and to energize the electorate is pretty amazing. The CNN poll also today revealed this was a choice for president, same registered voters over time. And there are four blocks of voters. Voters 18 to 34. In April and June, it was +7 to Trump. And now it's Kamala Harris +4. That's pretty significant. 18 to 34. They're the kind of people who listen to the kind of music that I don't listen to anymore. No, I listen to that kind of music. XCX. What's her name? Brat. I listen to it. I listen to it. It's electronic music. I mean, come on. I listen to the original Moog guys. I mean, I could get into that music. But anyway, yeah, Kamala Harris is now up 4. And in April and June, that was +7 for Trump. So that's a turnaround. Young people. Black voters. Trump was +47 among black voters. April and June. Now it's Kamala Harris +63. Making a difference there among black. Of course she would. Of course. And that's why, and I'm thinking to myself, Why does Kamala Harris always identify black and never gives co-equal status to Asian, even though her mother is Asian? Her mother, she reveres and says, her late mother, and says, this is why I do what I do and what I learned. It was the lessons I learned from my mom. Well, because Asian Americans aren't there in great number to buoy her up like they were the last couple of days over the weekend. 30 to 40,000 African American women, African American men on 2 separate calls, raising money as part of that $100 million haul that she took in the first 72 hours, a record presidential haul for in terms of donations. That's why she identifies black. And it shows plus 63 now. It was plus 47 for Trump. Now it's plus 63 Harris. Hispanic voters. Trump still has Hispanic voters. I don't know why. I don't know why. I mean, considering Kamala in California or from California or spending a lot of time in California, Senate, AG, San Francisco Bay Area, Oakland. But it's narrower. In April, June, it was plus 9 Trump. Now it's plus 2 Trump. Close. The Hispanics may come around. But you would have to think that that's probably due to the conservative nature of Latinos, Hispanics, maybe the Catholic Church. I say belly up to the taco bar. Plus 2 Trump right now, down from plus 9. That's within reach. That's going to make a difference. If it's a tight race, that group. I mean, it's funny how with the race, we always looked at it as the blue wall, right? Wisconsin, Michigan, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. That's what Biden needs. That's all. That's the only path he had, very narrow path. That was like thread the needle, Joe Biden. And now with Kamala Harris in there, they still have to get Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. But now they have to get North Carolina, or they're open to North Carolina. They're open to Georgia. They're open to Nevada. They're open to Arizona. More pathways. Just by naming Harris. I mean, this is why Harris, I don't know if she's going to win, but the race in less than a week has gone from, oh my God, is he running? Is he not running? Is he running? It's not. I mean, it's not a guy with a cold. It's a guy who wants to be president. Is he running? Is he not running? Is he? Finally, Biden decides, names Harris as the top of the ticket, and look at the change. We're not talking states. We're talking voter groups. We're not talking about those squishy independents in the middle. We're not talking about 6 states and 6%. We're talking about voter groups, 18 to 34, black voters, Hispanic, and let me mention the female voters, because this is really for Kamala Harris, especially with abortion rights being an issue. April and June, it was tied. Biden, Trump. Now, plus 5 Harris. Plus 5 Harris. So now we've got a varied way to talk about who the campaigns are trying to lure and who they're trying to keep and who they've got a lock on. And boy, 18 to 34 young voters, Donald Trump, April, June was plus 7. Now it's Kamala Harris plus 4. Big jump. Black voters solidified. It was plus 47 Trump in April, June. Now, same voters, plus 63 Harris. Slippage with Hispanic voters, April, June, +9 Trump, now +2 Trump. Look for that to fall to Harris, because she will get out Cesar Chavez's granddaughter. She'll get out Dolores Huerta. It'll be Cici Puede, and forget about it for Trump. And then that final group, female voters, they were tied. Trump, Biden, April, June. Now, +5 Harris. So that plus those demographic groups, women, blacks, Latinos, 18 to 34s. And then you look at the states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, of course, but now North Carolina, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona. Man, I think the big mo, as they say, is with Kamala Harris. I would say right now, she hasn't locked it up by a long shot. It's still competitive, but as I've named those areas, she's a much more formidable candidate than Joe Biden was. You know, because basically, here's another question that the CNN poll asked. Choice for president among registered voters, Democrats, 94% for Harris, 5% for Trump. It's almost like the reverse. Republicans, 6% Harris, 91 for Trump. Independents, 43 Harris, 46 Trump. So there's the fight among independents. But I think you'll find the independents going away from Trump when they discover just how moderate. I mean, the Republicans are trying to paint Kamala Harris as this firebrand San Francisco liberal. And to some people, that is, oh, liberal? You mean she's radical? No. San Francisco liberals aren't radical. San Francisco liberals are liberal. The radicals disdain San Francisco liberals. Because San Francisco liberals they're like slightly more hip Republicans. Because what you forget is in San Francisco, there are no Republicans. There are just none. They're all Democrats. San Francisco liberals. Believe me when I say this. I mean, I born, raised, covered it, reported there. San Francisco Democrats are like maybe 80%, 90%. There are no real Republicans in San Francisco. The Republicans are now really moderate, leftish, centrists, right? That passes for what is Republican, but is called the San Francisco liberal. So if you look at Kamala Harris's record, she was very political. And I mentioned this in my column on the Aldef blog, because I covered her when she was San Francisco district attorney, and I was writing for that ethnic paper that covered Asian Americans. And there was a time when Asian Americans were getting jumped by these white gangs. And I wanted some action taken. I wanted her to go after the white gangs. Kamala Harris didn't. She didn't. I mean, this is what I remember about the story. And I just chalked it up to the fact that, well, they couldn't find the evidence, or they couldn't. I think it was political pressure. Because San Francisco, during that period of time, and we're talking about what, 14 years ago? 14, 15 years ago? It wasn't as Asian as it is now. I don't think she'd do it now, because the area where the gangs were were active was the Sunset, which was mostly white back then. Now it's mostly Asian. And now there are Asian political forces that you would have to placate if Asian gangs or Asian, it was Asian people, were getting jumped by white gangs. And frankly, the establishment in San Francisco, white, pro-police, she's a top cop, I think that had a little something to do with how she proceeded in the case. Because nothing happened. Nothing happened to the perps. And the story went away. There was no public pressure. Like I said, I never talked to Kamala Harris directly on the story. I talked to her spokespeople. And I remember going to a fundraiser years after, all water under the bridge, right? And our eyes met. I think she recognized me because my collar had my picture next to it. I recognized her. And we froze for a second. And then we very diplomatically walked the other way. And I say that because as I think back, like, that's all in the past, right? This is the future, or this is the present. This is the present. If I were to see her now, Kamala Harris is the most watchable political figure today. And she could be president. And she's vice president. She's got a certain amount of power now. And the best politicians don't hold grudges. So now I mentioned this story I have a daughter who is in that 18 to 34 demographic. And I thought, oh, you must be excited, Kamala Harris. My daughter says, nah, she's a politician. Oh, yeah, I know. I know what that's like. And then she said, she's probably a Republican. At heart, she is, which is why the Republicans should just cut her some slack, although they can't. They're out to get her because they have to go for J.D. Vance. But the truth is, Kamala Harris is not nearly the radical person that people fear. I'm not saying she's a bad person. She's a good person. She's just political. I mean, that's the way I stated it in my column. She's just political. And when you're political, you know, you weigh things and then you make the decision for the good of your state, your city, your country, yourself aside to a degree. This is the way politicians are. And to get back to Joe Biden, I think that's why Joe Biden is going to be kind of interesting tonight, because the political thing, well, you find that place where the political and doing the right thing for the country matches. And for Joe Biden, it was in leaving the race. So he'll probably try to, his inflection point will be, this is when I discovered what politics is about. The point where, yes, I had to sublimate my ego for the good of country, and I soared. And I challenge you to do the same, to do the selfless act for the good of all, for the good of our democracy. I think. You think? I think it's going to be a Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country kind of moment. Because he's looking at legacy. He's looking at legacy. So as far as let's see, Kamala Harris goes, what other things? You know, they never ask Asian Americans here about this, but like I said, I know why Kamala Harris sort of leads black, although she bleeds kind of both, right? Asian, African American. Funny, I was reading something on Fox. Byron Donalds, who's Jamaican, said, "Oh, she's Jamaican, I'm Jamaican, but oh, she's a San Francisco liberal." Byron Donalds. He was the black guy who was sitting next to Donald Trump in the VIP box in the Republican National Convention, the Republican from Florida. Oh, man. You know, you start reading all these attacks on Kamala Harris. And I guess Byron Donalds, if you're going to attack her, don't attack her with Tim Burchett from Tennessee. Don't attack her with white Southerners. Attack her with Byron Donalds, the black man from Florida. Remember, they had him up for president or for speaker of the House. Remember that Speaker of the House vote? They wanted to have him there when McCarthy left. Byron Donalds, that's how he sort of bounded on the scene. Actually saw him on Newsmax. Because, you know, I read it all. I want to see where the Republicans, where the conservatives are coming from. And then I have my opinion. But my daughter, my rabble-rousing daughter, she told me, "Dad, I don't like any of those politicians." And then she said something to me that was kind of, well, I mean, it's true. She said, if voting changed anything, they would make it illegal. And you think about that, it's kind of, is that true? If voting changed anything? See, I don't know how my daughter got so cynical. She's in that 18 to 34, but thank goodness many of those 18 to 34s are seeing great hope in Kamala Harris. Hoping that my daughter would, as a female, 18 to 34. And she said, "Dad, if voting changed anything, they'd make it illegal." Right. And that's why the only thing that really changes anything isn't voting. It's campaign contributions. And that's why with the Citizens United and all the different PACs and all the different bundling, dark money, I'm telling you, money makes the system work. But voting helps. That's the exciting thing about Kamala Harris, because she has excited the electorate to the point where people are using the phrase grassroots again. I mean, I thought it was a dead word. I heard about super PACs. I've heard about, you know, normal PACs and super PACs and campaign bundlers. When did you hear anyone in the mainstream talk about grassroots, say within the last 10 years, 5 to 10 years? Grassroots? What is that? I mean, maybe with Bernie Sanders, maybe a little bit. But oh my God, this fundraising thing with Kamala Harris over the last 48, 72 hours, fundraising in record numbers, it shows there is a grassroots. There is grassroots power. We're seeing it now. And it's got to be people like my my daughter, who holds on to her views, but people like my daughter who have suddenly seen maybe there's hope, maybe there's a way. I think that's what we're seeing with the polls shifting, with the money coming in, the volunteering coming in. And, people are reluctant to use the term Obama-esque, but it kind of obvious. And I knew when Obama was courting her, when she was AG, I knew that she would have her day if she could survive all the politics. Just think of the politics here. Gavin Newsom, governor, I know was vying for a situation like this. He can't even be number 2 to Kamala because, the Constitution prevents 2 people from the same state. But who would have thought that it would be Kamala to overtake Gavin Newsom, since Gavin Newsom is the white male San Francisco liberal. But that's just the way the cards fell. He's still highly regarded, but this is Kamala's turn, it appears. And 2024, if she wins, it will be Kamala 2028. And where does that leave Newsom? I don't know. But I'm just saying, those two have been vying ever since their days as San Francisco liberals. And it's curious that right now, Gavin Newsom is the good soldier out there defending Biden, defending his party. And interesting, I just saw that he's starting a podcast, less secret than this podcast, but he's starting a podcast with a couple of African-American jocks, I think, right? One of them, the old Seattle Seahawks running back. He's from Oakland, though, but he played for the Seahawks. Interesting. I just saw an email come through, but Gavin Newsom isn't going to be president because this is Kamala's time. It's Kamala's time. It's Kamala's time. Everyone learned to pronounce her name. It's Kamala's time. So she's out on the campaign trail. We got Biden's speech. We talked about that coming up at 5 p.m. Pacific. Looking forward to that. I want to talk about Netanyahu briefly because just as a reporter, not taking any sides on the issue, except I woke up and I saw how members of Congress were boycotting Netanyahu's speech. And actually, Judy Chu, Asian Pacific American Caucus, Congressional Caucus, she said she wasn't going. I think that's right, because here's you got to figure who wants to see a speech at 11 o'clock. Why is a speech on at 11 o'clock in the morning or 12, whatever time it was, Pacific time for me? So maybe in the afternoon. It was really prime time for Israel because Netanyahu's trying to save his butt because 70% of the people in Israel want him out. Why do they want him out? Because he's totally mismanaged this 10-month war. He totally was unprepared for the strike that came October 7th. And as far as the hostages go, he shows no interest in getting the hostages out. Because as soon as the hostages come out, he loses his job. So he's out there giving this speech, and it looks like a State of the Union address, And it might as well be, because Israel gets $300 billion in military and economic aid from the U.S. We deserve to figure out what he's doing with the money. I mean, he said, if there's one thing you get out of this speech, our interests are your interests. Yeah, we've invested in Israel. Okay. Now we need some action. We need peace. We need the end of the war. We need the Gaza problem settled. We need two-state solution. He's not into that. So the only thing I can think of is this was a speech for Israelis to let the Israelis know, hey, I'm Benjamin Netanyahu, and look how these congressmen in the United States love me. I mean, that's what it was. You got a picture of Ted Cruz clapping, the Republicans who were there, some Democrats. Most Democrats, like AOC, she wasn't there. Judy Chu wasn't there. A lot of Jewish American Democrats weren't there. Pete Aguilar, California, all the whips, they weren't there. I imagine Ted Lieu wasn't there. Why weren't they there? They're there because they didn't want to be props. Netanyahu's props to show to Israel that, hey, America somehow backs Netanyahu. No, America backs Israel. America doesn't back Netanyahu. Big difference. And so, look, my heart goes out for the casualties, the hostages, the fact that the war that started around my birthday has not let up, and that Netanyahu never mentioned how he was caught off guard and his role in the things that happened, pre-October 7th, just totally caught off guard. So it really was a speech for Israeli consumption. For Americans, talk to your congressperson and ask them why they didn't go. And most of them would say, we didn't want to be used as a prop when people were applauding Netanyahu, knowing that 40,000 Palestinians had been killed. And this is a problem because Americans have a kind of half interest in this story, especially with the election. And analysts were saying, oh, Netanyahu praised Biden for giving aid, but also Netanyahu praised Trump for the alliance that he wants to form, a kind of Middle East NATO. Maybe, I don't know. It's a Trump idea. I don't know enough about it. I'd like peace in the Middle East. And Biden seemed to be on a path to that. What's funny is that with all the money that the United States gives to Israel, Israel does not defer to the United States at all. Israel does not say, oh, whatever you want, because we're here because of your dollars and your support. Netanyahu tried to make it sound like, hey, equal partnership, what's good for us, good for you. Yeah. That's where no, Netanyahu needs the United States to stay in power. And when more than 70% of the people in Israel want him out, I'm not sure if he's the guy. So I know one thing: we should end the war. We should move toward peace, move toward that two-state solution, move toward ending this crisis. And under Netanyahu, it hasn't happened. So I listened to them. I mean, even though Congressman boycotted the speech, didn't go. Kamala Harris didn't go. Joe Biden will speak to Netanyahu later. Kamala Harris will have her own time with Netanyahu. But I heard most of what he said and realized he wasn't talking to me as an American so much as he was talking to the Israelis to try to get him or try to get them to stop urging that he step down, that he leave. He was being political, and I didn't want to be used. But I'll hear him out. So I understand from his perspective, and I see other Israelis saying, hey, I don't know where Netanyahu's going, but he's a desperate politician right now. And just judging from the number of standing ovations he got from Republicans and people in Congress, things are going his way. All right, so yeah, we covered a lot of ground. I didn't really have a lot to say today, but because I've got to deal with my car's water pump. Now I'm going to watch the speech tonight, and let's see what happens. Let's see if there's a ask not what your country can do for you moment. Could be interesting tonight. All right, we like to end with a little loving kindness. You know, if I was really Amok, I would be Amok, but I'm a little loving kindness. Because it works, you know, let go of all that anger. I'm not the angry young man anymore. I'm kind of like, no, I let go. I mean, I don't think, I hope that in my piece I'm not sounding like I'm biased toward Kamala Harris. Looking at her objectively, but I'm also looking at Trump objectively, and, you know, man, Trump's in trouble, I think. I don't think he is prepared to run against someone so young. I don't think he knows how to deal with Hillary Clinton, but I don't think he knows how to deal with a Kamala Harris. Going to be a fascinating race. Let's see what happens. All right, so loving kindness, relax, release. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. Go Amok. Mahal.